This book was not written to teach, but to remind, to gently turn the mind back, to see that what it once believed to be me has never truly been so. The inner voice, the thoughts, the emotions, even understanding itself, these are merely passing appearances, arising and dissolving on their own. There is no one truly there. When the mind begins to see this directly, letting go happens naturally. And from that release, a quiet lightness begins to emerge softly, effortlessly. May this book serve as a gentle guide, leading your mind back to what it has always been, pure, empty, and never anything at all. In truth, we have never been human. We were never truly born. What we think of as ourself is merely a mistaken belief, an illusion born of clinging to the body and the mind's creations. Our true mind is the life element, empty, clear, and pure. It has no gender, no form. It is neither born nor does it die. It is the elemental source of all things, the element of emptiness, the Dhamma element, the element of Nibbana. The Buddha compared this true mind to the yolk of an egg. The egg white and shell represent the forms and fabrications that the mind creates in order to learn. But over time, the mind itself becomes entangled in them, mistaking these temporary constructs for its own identity. It forgets its formless nature and begins to believe that it is the very tools it used. We believe that the voice, the thoughts, the feelings, and the emotions are me. But in truth, they are merely fleeting appearances, rising and passing away on their own. They have no true substance, no inherent owner. If we were to remove everything body, voice, thoughts, emotions, even perception, what remains is pure consciousness, which has never been anything at all. It is a boundless clarity that existed long before any universe appeared. The true mind is beyond good and evil, beyond merit and sin. It is neither dark nor light, neither coming nor going. To realize this clearly is to begin the journey home, a return to the true mind. What we take to be ourselves. The inner voice, the arising mental images, the various feelings, and all forms of perception are all part of the Namadhatu, or the name element. They are merely tools that the pure mind appears to use in order to learn and reflect upon experience. But because this is forgotten, the mind becomes entangled in those tools, mistakenly believing them to be its true self. This mistaken grasping becomes upadana attachment to self. The inner voice becomes the one that assigns value, gives names, creates meanings, and fabricates the sense of me. Ideas of good and bad, success and failure all arise from this voice. When we observe deeply, we will see that this voice has no owner. It cannot be touched. It has no actual self. It is merely an arising condition appearing and disappearing on its own, beyond anyone's control. If we are willing to let it go and stop clinging to it, the mind will begin to feel light, open, and return to its original state. The true mind is not a person. It is not male or female. It has no name, no past, no future, only a pure, silent awareness that has always been quietly observing. When the mind has not yet awakened, it moves from one body to another, endlessly cycling through realms both high and low, whether in the form of humans, animals, or even the smallest of living beings. The mind has already been everything, for ignorance is the primary force that drives this cycle of becoming. In truth, the body is merely a temporary vessel that the mind inhabits. But not knowing this, the mind clings to the belief that this is me, and so becomes the one who must carry the weight of aging, illness, and death without end. Even the suffering we encounter arises from this same attachment, mistaking what is not self to be self. Inner voices, thoughts, and emotions, these all arise and pass away on their own. The mind merely appears to use these mental elements to learn. And when we see clearly that nothing truly belongs to us, we begin to touch the reality of anatta non-self. Therefore, we must make a solemn resolution, a clear vow not to be born again, not to return to this cycle of delusion. When the mind truly grasps the heart of Dhamma, the realization of truth is no longer distant. Liberation becomes possible here and now. The heart of Dhamma practice is the awakening that happens within. It is the clear awareness of thoughts, mental imagery, emotions, and perceptions. Without clinging to any of them, this is the true essence of Satipatthana, the foundation of mindfulness. It is the seeing of Dhamma within Dhamma, the recognition of phenomena, without being deluded into believing they are ourself. When it becomes clear that the inner voice is not you, that mental images and emotions simply arise on their own, and even understanding itself is uncaused, then the mind begins to release, clinging naturally. Not because it was forced to, but because it understands so deeply that it no longer wants to hold on. A turning point arrives when the mind becomes still, and we ask ourselves, is this thought really me? Or if this voice isn't me, then where am I? Such questions draw the mind back to truth and open the way to true liberation from the cycle of becoming. Listen to Dhamma regularly, even just a little each day. At some point, awakening will begin to happen on its own effortlessly, without striving. The mind will grow light, spacious, and quietly slip out of delusion like a dawn that rises without a sound. True Dhamma is not complicated. It simply calls us to observe, mindfully seeing the voice, the thoughts, the emotions for what they are, not self. Let the mind awaken by itself through this clear seeing. And if you can't yet remind yourself in time, then listen to Dhamma teachings again and again, until those voices of truth become an inner echo, a gentle whisper of remembrance. When the mind begins to wonder, what is this voice? Or why do I keep thinking but never notice I'm thinking? The veil of ignorance begins to lift. And when this moment is seen clearly, the mind quietly shifts into realization. Do not be ashamed to remind yourself every single day. Even writing it on a note and sticking it to your wall, don't be fooled by this voice, can be a powerful gesture. Because truly, the mind in delusion is blind. If it does not awaken, it will keep on being born again and again unaware and unfree. One could spend a lifetime around great teachers bowing to countless arahants. Yet if one has never truly seen that the inner voice, the thoughts, and the emotions are not the self, then the essence of Dhamma remains unseen. When the mind genuinely sees that thoughts are not self, the voice is not self, emotions are not self, and even perception is not self, when it sees that all of these are just outer ripples, then true release from upadana, from grasping, begins. The moment of understanding may arise as a single, silent realization from within. Oh, I've been deluded my whole life. And that simple sentence marks the beginning of light within a light that leads the mind out of the endless cycle of delusion. The voice in the mind, the one we believe to be ourself, is in truth just a current of mental energy, a stream of fabricated thought. It arises on its own, speaks on its own, interprets on its own and deceives us into thinking it is us. And so, without realizing it, the mind allows this voice to steal away its peace. When the mind begins to see that this inner voice is the one assigning meaning to everything, it starts to release its grip on identity and attachment. It realizes it's not the emotion that causes suffering, it's the voice that labels it. Emotion itself is just a natural movement. It has never said a word. It is the voice that intrudes and creates stories out of everything. Awakening begins from this very point by seeing the voice clearly. Like someone who has just discovered a thief in their home, the mind becomes more watchful, observing every ripple. The more often it sees, the lighter and more spacious it becomes. And in time, it begins to detach gently and clearly from the voice itself. From childhood, no one ever taught us that we are not our thoughts, not our emotions, not the voice in the mind. Everyone taught us to cling to both form and mentality. So it is no surprise that we grow up with the deep misunderstanding that we are human beings, with a name, a gender, a role. But when we begin to see that the thinking voice is not ours, that emotions arise and fade on their own, that this inner voice is the one constructing the self, we start to release our grip, subtly and deeply. And when this is seen with clarity, the mind shifts, becoming lighter, no longer burdened by anything. True wisdom is not the memorization of scriptures or the accumulation of knowledge through words. It is the simple yet profound act of seeing clearly, seeing what causes suffering, and seeing that it is not the self. When this is seen, the mind lets go on its own. No force is needed. When the mind sees clearly that the inner voice, the thoughts, and the clinging are the very causes of suffering, it no longer doubts the path. The mind becomes steady, like someone who sees a road sign that reads, "Bangkok 400 kilometers ahead." They may not be there yet, but they know they're going the right way. There is no longer any need to ask, "Am I liberated yet?" or "Have I realized the Dhamma?" Because this knowing arises on its own, like having a meal. No one has to tell you that you're full. You feel it directly. The taste, the fullness, it is known from within by itself. A mind that has seen the Dhamma lets go of the Dhamma. There is no need to collect more knowledge or engage in debate. The truth has already revealed itself clearly and completely within. As the mind begins to see thoughts more clearly, it naturally starts to turn inward without trying. Like someone who knows there's a thief in the shop, they begin to glance at the security camera more often. A mind that starts to see is a mind that is beginning to awaken. There may still be some effort, but it's a promising start. Like a child just learning to walk, it begins to see more, to know more, and to question the voice it once believed. Little by little, the old misunderstandings begin to loosen their grip. Even if no dramatic change appears outwardly, a gentle sense of lightness, openness, and quiet understanding begins to form. This is the true beginning of realization, the step that leads toward genuine liberation. As the mind begins to see more frequently, that seeing becomes second nature. It enters the state of great mindfulness, where every movement of thought, emotion, or inner voice is observed naturally, without effort or strain. The act of seeing arises on its own. Letting go happens on its own. Release unfolds without trying. The mind no longer clings to emotions, whether pleasant, unpleasant, or joyful. because it sees clearly that it is the voice that gives meaning, not the emotion itself. The moment thought stirs, the mind releases. It becomes light, lets go, disenchanted, and simply no longer wants to cling. This is the level of the 𝙈𝙈𝙈𝙚, the non-returner, whose mind will never again fall into the lower realms. It moves unwaveringly toward complete purity. Some people, upon hearing the teachings, begin to wish for attainment. They want to become a stream enterer, a non-returner, or to be free from suffering altogether. But all of this arises from the same inner voice that still does not understand. In truth, Dhamma requires no force, no rush. When it is truly seen and understood, it unfolds on its own. The mind knows for itself, just like the feeling of fullness after a meal. No one needs to tell you that you are full. You simply feel it. Let the voice of Dhamma sink into the heart until it becomes part of you. Then transformation will happen, not because you tried, but because it is natural. To see the voice within does not require words. It does not need to appear as a sentence or a concept. It doesn't unfold in rigid steps. Some people awaken from just a single phrase, a moment of clarity that dissolves lifetimes of confusion. The direct path of the mind does not depend on books or structure. It arises from pure, silent understanding. When the mind sees thought with such subtle clarity that even the shortest inner phrase is recognized and dissolves on its own, it enters a space where all movements become rapid, light, and almost ungraspable. Then, in a single moment, perhaps in the middle of the night, within a breath, or in the deepest stillness, understanding reaches its peak. The mind may break free. It snaps completely out of personhood. And in that instant, it knows there is nothing left to hold on to. No more self, no more seeking, no more becoming. This is the true awakening, simple and silent. It doesn't need a witness. It doesn't wait for approval. It is the quiet and complete ending of the cycle. The softest voice is the one that says nothing at all. True Dhamma is not something to memorize or recite. It isn't knowledge taken from books. It is a silent knowing that has always been here, waiting for the mind to turn back and recognize it directly. When the mind begins to see that the voice is not self, the thought is not self, the emotion is not self, and even understanding is not self, what remains is a clear and luminous emptiness that holds onto nothing. Liberation is not found through the number of hours one meditates, nor through chants or rituals, or even unwavering faith. It arises in the simplest seeing that everything arises and passes away on its own, that no one is truly there. May every mind awaken. May every heart become light. May all beings be free from every burden. May this be the end of the wandering. May Dhamma reach the heart. May the heart reach the Dhamma. May realization, simple, clear, and eternal, be yours, sadhu.